The Clinton email scandal appears to be transforming into the Clinton email political crisis. Hillary Clinton buckles to pressure to turn over her server amid growing questions about her presidential campaign. This is Special Report. Good evening. Welcome to Washington. I'm Brett Baer. What the Clinton campaign characterizes as nonsense and no big deal is a much bigger deal tonight. Her opponents insist with this email scandal, Hillary Clinton is on a long, slow path toward a self-inflicted political death by 1,000 cuts. Whether that's wishful thinking or not, it is clear Clinton supporters are trying to stop the bleeding over the growing investigation. After vowing not to turn over her private email server, Clinton has done an about-face amid reports she had highly classified intelligence on her unsecured private system. We begin tonight's coverage with senior political correspondent Mike Emanuel.
She is turning over her server, which I find to be an interesting choice of words. That the Bureau usually doesn't ask you to do things. They demand that it happen.
Republican Trey Gowdy, the Benghazi Select Committee chairman, is referring to a comment from a spokesman for Hillary Clinton's campaign, who said last night that Clinton directed her team to give her email server that was used when she was Secretary of State to the Department of Justice, as well as thumb drives containing copies of her emails already provided to the State Department. Although back in March, Clinton said it wasn't necessary.
The server will remain private, and I think that the State Department will be able, over time, to release all of the records that were provided.
Last night, Intelligence Community Inspector General Charles McCullough sent 17 key lawmakers notification that 2 emails that went through Clinton's personal server had been designated top secret and sensitive compartmented information, the government's highest classification rating. U.S. officials say the information came from monitoring foreign communications and satellite imagery gathered from space. Officials added that the 2 specific emails carried that top-secret designation from the time they were sent, which the State Department refutes.
Classification, looking at these kinds of issues, sometimes it's black and white, but oftentimes it's not.
On July 25th, here is how Clinton handled questions about her email.
I am confident that I never sent nor received any information that was classified at the time it was sent and received. I did not receive anything that was marked as classified. The facts are pretty clear. I did not send nor receive anything that was classified at the time.
Today, Gowdy ripped those statements.
Every explanation that Secretary Clinton has provided about a week later was proven to be demonstrably false. This is just the latest one of those assertions that there was no classified information.
Sources tell Fox the intelligence community's inspector general is pushing the State Department to turn over all 30,000 emails so those agencies can conduct an independent review of the material. The concern is there will likely be more highly sensitive information in those emails. Fox has learned Director of National Intelligence James Clapper is concerned about the State Department's unwillingness to turn over the Clinton emails to the intelligence community. Meanwhile, a spokesman for the State Department internal watchdog signaled the probe is expanding, saying, quote, "We will follow the facts wherever they lead, to include former aides and associates as appropriate." A new Monmouth University poll asked if Hillary Clinton's emails should be subject to a criminal investigation, with 52% saying yes, 41% no. Clinton Campaign Communications Director Jennifer Palmieri sent a note to supporters about the email matter. She said the bottom line is, quote, "This kind of nonsense comes with the territory of running for president. There is clearly a concern about potential political impact." Brett?
Okay, Mike, thank you. And the news keeps getting worse for Hillary Clinton. A new poll of New Hampshire Democrats gives Senator Bernie Sanders a 7-point lead over Clinton in the Granite State. In March, Clinton held a 47-8 lead over Sanders. Clinton campaign calls this an outlier. As you might imagine, Republicans are quick to weigh in on the Clinton email firestorm. Correspondent Peter Ducey has that part of the story tonight.
There's nothing top secret about Republicans' new message for Hillary Clinton. Opponents warned today her next address could be the big house, not the White House. Governor Bobby Jindal has a suggestion for the secretary that, quote, maybe her friend Martha Stewart can stop giving her interior decorating advice and give her jailhouse survival tips instead. orange really will be the new black. Mike Huckabee adds the soft security on the secretary's server could end up being, quote, life-threatening to members of our military and every American citizen. The same action for anyone serving in the military would mean a court-martial and prison sentence. Governor Scott Walker says Clinton just isn't cut out to be president.
Hillary Clinton would be a good deceiver-in-chief, but she cannot be trusted to be the commander-in-chief. And I think it's about time that she dealt with the consequences of this.
Republicans aren't just coming together to condemn Clinton. More and more are now signing Grover Norquist's taxpayer protection pledge. Today on Twitter, Governor Chris Christie announced, quote, I pledge to oppose and veto any and all efforts to increase taxes to the American people. That's a promise Rubio, Paul, Cruz, Fiorina, Santorum, Carson, and Huckabee have already made. But the man beating all of them in the polls, Donald Trump, is changing the subject. Back to Planned Parenthood. Trump's Republican rivals are vowing to stop sending Planned Parenthood taxpayer money since hidden camera videos appear to show some employees discussing price points for fetal body parts. But the billionaire businessman is now the first in the GOP field to stand up for some of the services offered by the embattled healthcare provider.
There's two Planned Parenthoods in a way. You have it as an abortion clinic. Now, that's actually a fairly small part of what they do, but it's a brutal part, and I'm totally against it, and I wouldn't do that. They also, however, service women. We have to help women. A lot of women are helped.
Trump is also now the first person in the field to promise that nobody will ever take the microphone away from him when he's campaigning. Trump says it was embarrassing when protesters got the mic away from Bernie Sanders, and if anybody tries with him, either security will step in or he will fight them off. Brett?
Okay, Peter, thank you. The retiring Army Chief of Staff is not buying the popular sentiment that the invasion of Iraq was a mistake. General Ray Odierno at his final press briefing told reporters that Saddam Hussein had convinced all of his generals that Iraq did have weapons of mass destruction.
Saddam Hussein was an incredibly ruthless person who was suppressing his population. And I know there's always been this argument, well, we went in there were no nuclear weapons, there were no... Here's what I'll tell you. I talked to all, I've said this for years, I talked to all the Iraqi generals. They'll tell you there were nuclear weapons. So, I mean, the bottom line is they absolutely believe there were nuclear weapons on the ground.
The general says he's frustrated by what he sees in Iraq now. Hillary Clinton and President Obama are taking fierce criticism tonight over the rise of ISIS. The finger is being pointed by a candidate with his own Middle East family baggage. Correspondent Kevin Cork has that story from the president's vacation compound on Martha's Vineyard.
Who can seriously argue that America and our friends are safer today than in 2009, when the President and Secretary Clinton, the storied team of rivals, took office? So eager to be the history makers, they failed to be the peacemakers.
It's their fault. That was a message from former Florida Governor Jeb Bush when he blamed President Obama and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton for the rise of ISIS and the increasing instability in the Middle East, especially in Syria and Iraq.
So why was the success of the surge followed by a withdrawal from Iraq, leaving not even a residual force that commanders and the Joint Chiefs knew was necessary? That premature withdrawal was the fatal error, creating the void that ISIS moved in to fill.
The GOP presidential candidate argued the president's limited approach of more airstrikes and less direct engagement has led to the growing shadow that ISIS now cast over the region, stretching from deep within Iraq all the way across the Syrian countryside.
Iraq was stable. Al-Qaeda had been defeated by the end of 2009. Both the Secretary of State, the President, the Vice President, Biden, all said they had inherited a stable Iraq. And when it went south was when we withdrew our troops at the end of 2011.
But experts say the growing ISIS threat isn't limited to just what's happening on the ground. Images like the recent beheading of a Croatian national act as an online recruiting tool with international reach, which just this week hit the American homeland as a Mississippi couple was arrested for allegedly plotting to join the terror group. The White House has brushed off criticism of its strategy against ISIS, citing what it calls steady improvement.
In the last year, we have made considerable progress in our effort to degrade and ultimately destroy ISIL.
Meanwhile, the Democratic frontrunner's campaign said it was the governor's brother who created the problem.
It emerged in no small part as a result of President Bush's failed strategy.
Brett, I have an important nugget to share with you tonight in the battle against ISIS. We have learned from the Pentagon that now there are manned missions taking off from the Incirlik Air Base in Turkey. And to give you a bit of perspective, that's about 15 minutes from that base directly into Syria, making flights from there all the more important. Brett?
Kevin Corke traveling with the president tonight. Kevin, thank you. Former President Jimmy Carter says he has cancer. Mr. Carter, who is 90, released a statement a short time ago saying liver surgery revealed he has cancer in other parts of his body. He says he will undergo treatment in an Atlanta hospital. A few moments ago, President Obama wished Mr. Carter a fast and full recovery. Up next, the head of the EPA surveys the damage that her agency has done in the West. First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 4 in Dallas with the firing of the police officer who killed an unarmed African-American teen as he was vandalizing a car dealership. The Arlington police chief says 49-year-old officer in training Brad Miller was dismissed for exercising poor judgment. A grand jury will determine if Miller will face criminal charges. WSVN in Miami with a study saying school children are being assigned up to 3 times too much homework. That's according to the American Journal of Family. It says too much homework can be detrimental to kids' attitudes about school, their grades, and their quality of life. And this is a live look at New York from our affiliate, Fox 5. The big story there tonight, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady meet before a judge to discuss Goodell's 4-game suspension of Brady over deflated footballs in the AFC Championship game last year. No word on what, if anything, happened today. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report. We'll be right back.